Donald Trump unilaterally launched what he calls massive precision strikes on 3 Iranian nuclear facilities. He boasted about a spectacular military success, but let's be absolutely clear, this isn't a success. It's a dangerous escalation, a profound violation of both U.S. and international law, and it brings us closer than ever to a catastrophic global conflict. Even China has called out the U.S. for violating international law, and they're not wrong. And you know what? For years, we've heard from the right about warnings about lefties being warmongers and dragging us into World War III. Now we need to talk about who the real warmonger is and what this attack truly means for global peace. All those people on the right, those MAGAs who thought Obama was going to attack Iran or Biden was a warmonger, where's your voice now? Are you still supporting Trump? Well, let's start with the law of our own land. The U.S. Constitution is crystal clear. The power to declare war rests solely with Congress. Article 1, Section 8. It's not a suggestion, it's a fundamental check and balance designed to prevent exactly what Trump just did. Did he seek or receive congressional authorization for these strikes? No, he didn't. He bypassed our elected representatives, showing a profound contempt for the very document he swore to uphold. His administration will claim self-defense or imminent threat, but attacking nuclear facilities in another sovereign nation, facilities that were being monitored by international bodies, does not fit the legal definition of responding to an imminent armed attack on the United States. And let's be honest, Donald Trump just told Iran he was going to give them 2 weeks to figure this out and negotiate with Israel. And then 2 days later, the sneaky bastard attacks them anyway. He told him 2 weeks and then stabbed him in the back. This wasn't about stopping a missile mid-flight. This was about a preemptive offensive strike. And under U.S. law, that power belongs to the legislative branch, not a single individual in the Oval Office. This is an unconstitutional act, plain and simple, and it sets a terrifying precedent for presidential overreach. Beyond our borders, the legality of this attack is equally, if not more damning. International law, primarily enshrined in the United Nations Charter, strictly prohibits the use of force by one state or another. Specifically, Article 2.4 states that all members shall refrain in their international relations from the threat or use of force against the international integrity or political independence of any state. The only exceptions are in cases of legitimate self-defense against an armed attack or an action authorized by the UN Security Council. Neither of these conditions were met here. The UN Security Council did not authorize these strikes, and as for self-defense, this was not a response to an armed attack on U.S. soil. This was an act of aggression against a sovereign nation, shattering whatever fragile peace happened to exist. And it's not just me saying this. China has explicitly come out and stated that the U.S. attack violated international law. Their foreign ministry, among others, has condemned these strikes, calling them a grave violation of the UN Charter. They are absolutely correct. The United States, under Donald Trump, has flagrantly violated the fundamental principles of international law, pushing us further into a dangerous and unprecedented global landscape. Now let's talk about the mind-numbing hypocrisy on display. For years, we heard it echoed across conservative media, amplified by the MAGA movement, that Obama was a warmonger. He was going to attack Iran or start a war for political gain to distract from his failures. World War III is coming because of the liberal left. Remember this? President Obama will start a war with Iran in order to win re-election, Donald Trump tweeted. Or, he's looking for a distraction. For years, the rallying cry from the MAGA faithful was that the Democrats were the ones who would drag us into a costly, pointless war in the Middle East. They screamed about the deep state and globalists pushing for conflict. And yet, here we are. It's not a liberal president attacking Iran. It's Donald Trump, the very man who ran on an America First platform, ostensibly against foreign entanglements, is now the one igniting a new chapter of military conflict in the Middle East. The very thing he accused his predecessors of planning, he is now executing. The silence from many in the MAGA movement is deafening. What's worse, though, is the ones that are suddenly cheering on this very act. This is a dangerous pattern that requires us to look at something uncomfortable. When we examine extreme nationalist movements throughout history, we find common threads: a strongman leader, a cult of personality, the demonization of others, whether internal dissenters or external enemies, and a willingness to disregard established laws and norms domestic and international, to achieve perceived nationalistic goals. Think about the tactics. The constant accusation of fake news to undermine the truth, the insistence on unwavering loyalty to a single leader, the dismissal of any criticism as unpatriotic or treasonous. These are not unique to any one political movement, but they are tactics historically used by figures who sought to consolidate power and bypass the democratic process. When the liberal warmonger narrative shifts overnight to cheering on the very war they warned against, we have to ask ourselves, is it about principle, or is it about unquestioning allegiance to a figure regardless of their actions? And this attack isn't happening in a vacuum. For years, the U.S. has navigated a complex relationship with China, a relationship already fraught with trade tensions, geopolitical competitions, and ideological differences. By unilaterally striking Iran, the U.S. is not only destabilizing the Middle East, but it's also sending a chilling message to Beijing that the U.S. is willing to disregard international norms and potentially escalate conflicts without broader international consensus. This creates immense instability. It emboldens other nations to act outside of international law, and it risks drawing the U.S. into a direct confrontation with a global adversary. The very World War III that MAGA warned about, the war sparked by warmongering, is now a terrifyingly plausible outcome because of the actions taken by their very own dear leader. This isn't a regional conflict anymore. It has direct implications for global power dynamics and the very real risk of igniting a much larger, far more devastating global conflict. Trump's attack on Iran was not a display of strength, but a dangerous act of illegality and profound hypocrisy. Donald Trump has violated U.S. and international law, and in doing so, he has dramatically increased the risk of a wider war, a war that could very well involve global powers like China. Trump threatens the rule of law, international peace, and the catastrophic consequences of unchecked power. We must demand accountability for these actions. We must reject the double standard and the dangerous rhetoric that leads us down this path. The time for blind allegiance is over. The stakes are too high. Trump and his entire ilk need to be removed from office before they literally destroy our nation and possibly the world.